one of the things that actually like spurred this idea of traveling was one of my best friends asked me like 2.5 years ago before I started doing any of this is, what's your daily happiness? This is when I was still in a relationship. I told him 3 out of 10. And to me, that was such a normal thing to say, like 3 out of 10, that's my average. Like that's normal. And he was just like, dude, let's sit down. We sat down on the curb and he's like, dude, that's like suicidal, like potentially on the path to suicide.
Yeah. Why keep going?
Yeah. And I was like, oh. And so he started telling me all this stuff and it was so like, I knew it again in the back of my head, but I was just ignoring it. And it just like lit a fire under my ass. And I was like, oh shit, that's really bad. And so now when I compare my current happiness, I'm just like, how could I have lived so long at like 3 out of 10 consistently when like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. I'm not
What is it now?
7.
Great.
About a 7. Yeah. Which is excellent. Like, I think if you're at a 10 all the time,
God bless you. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome. Good for you.
I'll have days that I'm at a 10, but like average 7. Yeah.
And that 7 was mostly when you were traveling the world with David. And it sounds like it wasn't even so
now,
much.
Right now.
Oh, it's right now.
Yeah.
Even while because I know you're working really hard.
Yeah. It's a 7 now.
What worked? What was the... I'd like to
honestly
know 2 questions.
being
what worked
single.
and what didn't? Say it again.
Being single. Being single just made me a lot happier.
Why?
And I think I'm not sure if I said this already, but I think I've just grown too independent for relationships. Like I always have this thought, like I'm too independent now. And especially like after being single for 2 years, like I really enjoy having the optionality of just being alone without worrying about how someone else is going to perceive that, you know? I just came back from a trip to Mexico with like one of the most incredible women I've ever met. And it was 5 days long. And at the end of it, even though like she's one of the most incredible women I've ever met, I was so happy to like have my time alone afterwards. Right.
How'd you meet?
Instagram.
All right.
Yeah.
Endless.
That's one of the things we teach. Like actually the best dating app in the world is not Tinder or Bumble. It's Instagram. And just knowing how to work the whole Instagram thing is like a whole other thing. But
and so you have a VA essentially who's on there who is contacting people that are your type.
Yes. And by the way, every single girl that I go on a date with knows that I do this. They know about the funnel. They know that they were contacted by a virtual assistant.
They know before you meet them in person?
No, I tell them in person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because I want to give the opportunity to like say it in a way where they can go, like walk through my thought process with me, right? And I've had a couple girls get pretty offended by it. It's happened twice. But then after like some time, they were able to get to more neutral, leaning slightly towards negative, but like more neutral like reaction.
Why were they offended?
It's the same thing I kind of said earlier about the sterility of it. Just like,
so they were like, oh, this was just one.
Well, and they're messaging someone they think's named Jesse looks like Jesse.
I know, I'm just asking. I'm just trying to
they're getting responses from someone that's not Jesse.
Just to be super clear, the messaging is only the initial message, and from there I just take it from there.
Oh, you do?
See,
all right, cool.
So for that, at that point, I'm like,
it's a message
I don't have a strong reaction.
No, that I'm down with. What would be weird is that you've been going back and forth.
No
20 messages.
No virtual assistant is good enough to do that.
Not
like,
something
I wish
that's something I could see someone being offended by, though. Like,
I wish like there was one because I might like experiment with that, but there's
might.
Lord knows I might.
I might do it. But no. Like after their initial message, just me, and like I'm sending voice notes. I usually do voice notes, and so they're talking to me, but 99.9% of women, whatever the number, 2 out of 200, like a 99% just don't care. They think it's, and then there's a percentage that think it's like so clever, and they're like, "What the f? I need to do this." And we start brainstorming ways they can do it in their own life or with their own dating life. And I've actually had my virtual assistant work with a girl on her Tinder after she heard about it. She's like, "Can I please like try this?" And like it's just like an interesting, funny thing for most people.
Women's Tinders and all that stuff is so under optimized. I mean, you know, they put in a couple photos, but the bios are often nothing or
like a sentence or an emoji or
here's
just
my Instagram.
But the thing is, dudes do that too. And
Wow.
so I've had almost because I'm so obsessed with like this online dating thing that it naturally comes up in most conversations on dates. And so I will ask girls if I can see their Tinder, and just like scrolling through dudes is so interesting because you think that like, you know, girls that have a lot of options, they don't need to like put in work on their profile. Therefore, like it kind of makes sense. Like an attractive girl doesn't need to do that stuff. guys do, but they still don't. And it's so strange for me to look at this and just, I get it now why most guys think that online dating doesn't work, because they just don't approach it like a marketing landing page.
Well, I assume that it's important to have a good bio, but that you really need to make it powerful per word. Because if I had a 3-paragraph essay for a Tinder profile, it doesn't matter how handsome I am, doesn't matter what those words are. That level of trying hard is probably so off-putting.
Yeah. Do you guys want me to read you my Tinder bio?
Go for it. Okay. Go for it.
Yeah, because when I hear you guys talking about like, oh, it's a landing page, this and that, that's what I imagine people doing. Is going, oh, sick, I'll list all my accolades, and it's like, no, this is
4.0 GPA.
This is still a dating app, and the goal is to create some emotion, but it'll be off-putting if you write a huge essay.
It's a poem. It's got to be tight.
Yeah, it's a haiku. This is actually much longer than I would have expected. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 9 lines of text.
Yeah.
May I look at your photos?
Sure.
Only 3. Interesting.
Yes, this is also intentional.
Just 3 of your best?
Yeah, because
you can only get worse, right?
Exactly. Seriously. This is also why
I've gotten to a girl's 6th photo in the past and been like, yes. And you're judged off your worst photo.
Exactly. And so we tested this like crazy. Like Tinder's official blog says that you should upload, I think, like 6 pictures, and they found that increases the amount. We weren't able to replicate that.
Yeah.
3 really good pictures just does fine. And everyone after that is just like an opportunity for her to say no. It's kind of like if you're talking to someone and they have some like food in their teeth.
Yeah.
Like all you can really think about is like that little piece of food, even though everything else might be amazing. It's like that one thing you're like, you need to
what I sense on is I know that you're showing me your best. So if I'm not attracted to your absolute 5 or 6 best, then I can predict that in person it's going to be. I mean, it's a rare thing that you show up on an online date and we're like, wow, you're so much more beautiful than you were in your photos.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
People know how to take pictures these days.
Yeah.
So what's the worst thing that you guys ever tried? What's the thing you were like, oh, this is going to be sick? And
it sounds like the $60,000
Yeah, well, okay, that was the first. The second was, so we were going to spend $15,000 hiring Sam Colder. I don't know if you know who he is.
No.
He's like one of the most famous Instagram travel photographers, right? So our thinking was, let's find the best photographer like on the internet and have him take our pictures. Because if you go to his Instagram, his pictures are amazing. And so I contacted him and we had this whole conversation, and his quote was 15K, but like he wouldn't be able to do it for a while, or something happened where like he couldn't do it. And so David and I were like, okay, well in the meantime, we still need to like figure something out. So we just hired like a $50 an hour photographer, and we had him take 2,000 pictures in one day, just like burst fire, and we were able to take like 6 or 7 of those pictures and make them like our dating profile pictures. And that was so effective that there was no need to spend that much money on like a photographer. And so that's one of the things we teach in the course, is just take 1,000 pictures with a decent photographer
or an iPhone portrait mode.
And you're done forever. Yeah, you're just done. You don't need to spend a ton of money. Just take a bunch and you're eventually going to catch a certain angle where you look pretty good.
Got it. Yeah. Interesting. And I'm presuming, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I'm not that you look tremendously different, but have you ever catfished someone? Do you feel like you've ever had such a good photo experience that